Like I had a friend come to me the other day, and she said that her girlfriend was doing drugs. And so then she was involved in that scenario, and she was crying because she didn't know what to do because her girlfriend was changing. And I said, that lesson that you're learning right now is a life lesson with your girlfriend right now because you're learning about each other. Now, whether that is okay for her to be who she is.
Well, now you've reverted back to the first question that you were asking, and that's just fine.
Okay, great.
But then you moved on to something else,
Yeah.
And the something else that you moved on to was someone in the midst of momentum,
Mm-hmm.
and what do you do about it? Give us an example. Is that the example that you want to use? It's fine enough, but
yeah, that would pretty much be the example I want to use, really. Like if somebody's getting into like let's say they built the momentum and they have losing the bills, losing the husband, losing their children, and the job is going crazy, and they have lost that. They've lost self-esteem, and so they are in complete and utter disarray.
So if you say to someone who is standing in this pronounced place of disconnection, these are life lessons.
Mm-hmm.
They want to say to you, well, how come other people aren't getting those life lessons? Why me?
Well,
because
don't you think that stops them from thinking about the past and then go on to the future with thinking that, all that is a lesson to learn? We are living in life in a physical world that is extremely hard to factor in.
We are not disagreeing with you that life does bring teaching experiences. Mm-hmm. But what we are wanting you to, all of you, to feel from us right now is that when the life or the vehicle is speeding down the hill out of control, standing and trying to stop it is not a good idea, because it's just going to run over the top of you. And surely you've had that experience with person after person as you try to explain to them that it's okay when it very much does not feel all right to them, or that it's a life lesson when they don't care what you call it. They're hurting, right, and they don't want this.
Right.
In other words, you have to find some way of bringing them back into control of their own experience. So if we were visiting with someone like that, we would say these things to them. Maybe they will hear them now. Most likely they will not. But we would offer a series of explanations. And if they were willing to listen to us long enough, eventually they would come to the place of understanding the worthiness and the rightness of that which they are. And once that vibrational stance is restored, then their life will begin to treat them according to that vibrational stance that they have accomplished. So what we're saying to you is to discuss the issues that they're living, the details of the discomfort that they are living only keeps that discomfort active in their vibration. Our every word would be focused to bring them, to soothe them back, and that's what you're attempting to do by calling it life lessons, to soothe them back into the well-being that is natural for them. So we would say this series of words. Are you ready to listen for a little while? Because we're going to assume that this is a person that can only absorb so much at a time. So we're going to gently talk this person who is far out of alignment back into vibrational alignment. You'll come along quickly because you're not so far out there on that raw and ragged edge. And we don't want you to relate too much to this person. We're standing in your shoes, speaking to this person. I know it looks bad. I know it feels bad. But it isn't as bad as it feels. I know it seems like there's no way out, but that is not true at all. There are many occasions when just because you can't see what's out there doesn't mean that there isn't a solution that's out there. I want to talk with you, and I want to be on your side, and I want to empathize with you. But I don't want to keep this story of what's wrong active in your vibration. And I don't want to activate what's wrong in your life in my vibration, because I know for sure it's not good for you and it's not good for me. The most important thing I want to say to you is you have not done anything wrong. So you don't need to ask me to choose sides with you against him or against them, because I don't think you've done anything wrong to begin with. I think you're just sorting this out and you're finding your way. I have a sense of the power of who you are. And I've always liked so much of that which I see in you. The thing that I can feel in the strongest way is that the circumstances that you're living are making you ask big-time questions. And I believe that every person who has ever overcome anything and found themselves eventually in a much better place has been standing right where you are. And I just want to say, there is nothing wrong with where you're standing, as far as I'm concerned, except that you feel so bad while you're standing there. And that's the part that I would like to help with. I so want you to feel better. I so want life to treat you in the way that you deserve to be treated. But you're like so many of us. You've got some habits going on that are preventing what you want from coming into your experience. And so little by little, I'm going to show you how you can focus differently and then live differently. But this is not the best time for us to try to make that happen, because there's a momentum going that has to sort of peter out. And it will peter out if you can stop talking about it and thinking about it, which pretty much means you need a nap. You need some way of distracting yourself from what's going on here, because your mind is so active. You have such a brilliant mind, and you're fixating on things that you don't want. And the more you fixate on those things that you don't want, the more you attract more of those things that you don't want. So they keep proving to you what you think. If you could just find some respite from this momentum of these negative thoughts, things would get better for you right away. I know that there are periods of your life that you remember that were better than what's going on right now. And I want you to know, I believe this with everything that I am, you're saying to them, that you don't have to go back to the beginning of something and start over, because where you are is in a perfect place to begin again. But you can't begin again by regurgitating everything that's wrong. That just keeps the momentum of the stuff you don't want going in your experience. You got to take a nap, you got to start again, and you got to reach for some thought that feels better to you. And it is my promise to you that day by day by day, it's like, imagine that you had in your lungs this red, inky mist. You're just generating it. And every time you open your mouth, it blows out into the atmosphere just ahead of you. So there's always this red fog everywhere you go, because you just keep opening your mouth and spewing it. So everywhere you go, there's that red fog, and it never gets any better because you keep spewing it. So every step you take, you've got this fog that you're trying to make your way through. But now you've had your nap. You're not spewing it. While you slept, you didn't spew it. And when you first opened your eyes, there was a clear space till you remembered what was going wrong and started talking about it again. So if you can just stop talking about what's gone wrong for just a little while, that space will clear, and other things you want will move into that space. You are the generator. I know it's hard to see, say to her. I know it's hard for you to see. It doesn't feel like you're generating this because you don't want it. And at deep levels of your being, you do not believe that you would do this to yourself. But at every level of my being, I know that we and only we are doing it to ourselves. My love for you is so strong that I am wanting to say to you, I don't want to be a sounding board of what's going wrong. I think we're all too much in our heads. We're all spending too much time trying to justify where we stand in our powerful desire for somebody to look at us and say, yes, you are a good person and you're standing in a good place because all of those reasons say that it's so. You don't have to explain nothing to nobody, say to her. You don't have to explain anything. And the more you try to justify or defend or rationalize, the more you spew that stuff that just keeps what you want to see unavailable to you. So now, pretty good explanation, don't you think? Now, maybe she heard and maybe she didn't, but if she will take a nap, if she really will take a nap, then the next conversation will go like this. I'm glad that you feel so much better. Because when I first started napping my way into alignment, I discovered that when I first awakened, everything felt so much different that for a little while, it was as if the world was responding to me differently. Oh, it doesn't take long before you start remembering what's wrong, especially when you're surrounded by the evidence of it. But everything started getting better for me because when I made my first realization that I do feel better when I first wake up. I do feel better when I first wake up. Now, this is something, say to her, that surprised me. It surprises almost everybody, and I think it's going to surprise you too. And that is, after you've had a nap or 2 or 3 or 4 or 10, once you've given this a little bit of time and you're waking up and just sensing how you feel, recognizing that you do feel better, you're going to begin to feel clarity in your mind that's going to feel like something that you remember from before. That's the first thing that happened to me, say. I started to feel clear. I started to feel clear-minded. I felt less like I wanted to explain anything to anybody that would then make it less clear. This is important. I discovered that I woke up feeling sort of clear, and then when I tried to explain my clarity to my husband, I got confused again right away. Because his introduction of his perspective into my perspective just muddied the waters. And so I started keeping more to myself until my clarity was more secure. And then amazing things began happening to me. People who were commonly behaving in a way that was not pleasing were moving out of my experience. Or if they were there, they began responding differently to me. I understood then for the first time something that somebody told me. I am the center that is evoking it, and I never would have believed it if I hadn't napped myself into that knowing. I never would have believed it because I was on such a roll of trying to prove my worthiness, trying to defend. I had to show myself that when I stopped defending, the reasons to defend all went away. And in place of those reasons to defend came a feeling of well-being that started to prove itself to me too. It was as if, and say to her, I believe that it is as if whatever I'm feeling is being proved to me. When I feel unworthy, stuff happens that just supports that. And when I feel better about myself, stuff happens that just supports that. And so, little by little, I'm no longer someone who wants to debate issues. I don't want to talk about all of the different ways of living life. They are endless, and they're all right for somebody. I just discovered that I want to feel good, and I can think thoughts that do feel good, and when I do that consistently, things that match those thoughts, other people, other experiences, it's like I am the center of my universe, and they are all too. Time for another nap.